What's happening? It's Darian, the mouth of the South, Gray, and this week's game of the week is a matchup between one of the most consistent teams in the NFL and one of the most anticipated. I don't need to hype this matchup any more than it already has been. We talking Saints versus Bucks, point blank, period.
You can sleep when you die, point blank, period.
And you know this, man.
If you're looking for storylines on the Saints side, it's pretty much back to business. They retain the same core, and they've been one of the most consistent teams in the NFL over the last 3 years, having the most wins over that span. But for some reason, no matter how good the team was, they were notoriously bad starting the season. They got an ugly win to open up the year last year versus the Texans, and that ended a 5-year drought. Yes, 5 straight years losing the first game of the season. And this year, they hope to make a positive streak. Now, if we're talking about on the offensive side, they've added Emmanuel Sanders, they added Cesar Ruiz, so they'll have those 2 additions on the team. But one thing they won't have is the fans in the Superdome. It's been one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. But the Bucks are catching a break. They don't have to deal with that. So now let's get into the Bucks. It's a couple things you have to look for. Tom Brady, they have the GOAT. Tom Brady and that offense is a lot of new pieces. How will they gel in week 1? How will Leonard Fournette factor into the game plan? He was only signed 11 days before this game. Will Gronk be the same? It's a lot of questions, and one that I think is not being discussed enough because the offense is great. We understand they have a lot of pieces. Will they gel? But one thing that's not been discussed is will the defense continue their progress from last year? The secondary specifically, Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy, Bunting. We'll get into those guys in a second. Matter of fact, let's not even hype it up anymore. Let's get into the matchups to look out for. My first matchup that I want to look out for is Alvin Kamara versus that rangy linebacking core that I call 545, Lavonte David, Devin White. Alvin Kamara is a very dynamic player, explosive, but the Bucks have this certain type of player that I feel is very successful. It's kind of like Deion Jones in Atlanta. They have David and White, both rangy players. And I think that both can actually play well against Kamara, so it's a good thing to look out for. The next matchup is Cam Jordan versus Tristan Wirfs. And Tristan Wirfs, the rookie, is going against 15.5 sack having Cam Jordan, one of the best defensive ends in the league. I ain't gonna lie, this ain't the way I want to start my career, but you're a high pick for a reason. You have high expectations. And this is definitely a high-level challenge. And the winner of this matchup could have a huge impact on the game. And now probably the most exciting of all of them. I know I named some, Kamara versus linebacker, you might not see it. Wirfs versus Jordan, you probably not looking. But these are the ones you are looking out for. The wide receivers versus the corners. You have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin versus Marshawn Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins. I don't care how much history Lattimore and Evans have. That's never an easy matchup for either one of those guys. And then Godwin's coming off of a 1,300-yard season going against Janoris Jenkins, who is going into his first full season as a Saint. That should be exciting. This is possibly the best wide receiver duo in the league going against one of the better cornerback tandems. Then on the other side, you have Michael Thomas, the best in the league. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had no success shutting him down recently. Then you add in Emmanuel Sanders, and it is mandatory that the Tampa Bay secondary continues their hot streak from last year. Because if they don't, they're in for a long day. These are 2 really good wide receiver duos, and we'll see which cornerback tandem gets the best of them. I know you guys want to hear my prediction, and this is how I'm basing it. It's going to be a close game regardless. I don't see a blowout either way. I think it'll be a 1-score game for most of the game. And if it is getting to 2 scores, probably like a late touchdown or something of that sort. But I'm going with the Saints for 2 reasons. One, the Bucks will need some time to gel, and I understand that Tom Brady is a great quarterback, and that gelling time might be shorter, but they will need some sort of time to adjust to actually playing against real people, not just their own teammates. And I think that little quality will equal out with the Saints' struggle of starting the season. And then lastly, most importantly, I think the Saints are just a better team. I think that for as much talent as the Bucks have accumulated, you look at the Saints, and if you go starter for starter, they may have the Bucks beat about 6-5. I don't want to go through it, but I would say 6-5. Maybe 7-4, but 6-5 for sure. So the Saints have the better, the offenses are pretty much equal, but the Saints have the better defense. So that's what I'm going with. I'm going with the better team, the more consistent team, and a team that already knows each other. So I'm going with the Saints to pull out this game. Point blank, period.